Hi guys, and welcome back to another boxing podcast of Boxing Bantz with Max and I. But today we've got a special guest with us, Scott. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Not bad. So tell the fans at home what you do.
Yeah, so basically about 6 to 8 months ago, I think it was now, just started a sort of TikTok page talking about boxing, just generic stuff that was coming up. And out of my sort of friend group that I've got here, they watch boxing very casually, but it's really difficult to kind of get a conversation with them, with any of them that know, someone outside of Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua, and Tyson Fury, really. So I thought, you know what, I'll start a TikTok page because I've seen a few people on TikTok, doing, basically live streams while they were watching the boxing. Not obviously showing the screen or anything like that, but just doing like live watch-alongs. So I thought, you know what, rather than me sort of sitting and watching them on my own because the missus isn't bothered, I'll I'll try and get this off the floor. Get to that. I think it's 800 followers mark that you've got to get to, and see if I can get some of them going. And it's just gone from strength to strength. Really, it's took off.
Yeah, it's flown up. It's really grown your channel.
Yeah,
isn't it?
as I say, I think I took ages to get to that 800 mark, and then from that 800 to 1,000, it took about 3 or 4 months. But then all of a sudden, I had a couple of videos that blew up, which was basically me sort of telling everybody on TikTok what boxing's on over the weekend, US, UK, Japan, all of that kind of stuff. And a load of people started sort of joining. And then I got really lucky where I could go live. I think must have been about a month before Tyson Fury versus Usyk. And that week was very, very good for a TikTok creator because there's a lot of content coming out. John Fury with his headbutt and all that.
It blew up our channel. It did.
Yeah.
That fight.
Oh, don't. And Max and I have been part of boxing for a while now, and actually being there in amongst it was quite a thing. I mean, I was there at the press conference with Tyson. I was with his dad. I was sat next to obviously Big John, and I was sat next to Tommy. Now, Tommy, if you put him next to everyone else, Tommy's kind of like the runt of the lot. Do you know what I mean? Nice guy, really nice guy, and
Mr. Pretty Boy.
He is. And obviously with them all in Paris, it's something else, right? When the camera stopped rolling, you couldn't ask for a better bunch of people, including Big John, right? Now, Big John did misbehave in Saudi Arabia. But he was.
So, I believe that cost Tyson the fight.
Maybe, yeah. It could have done. You could say so.
I don't know. Listen, headbutting someone days before the fight, and then being in the corner, giving his verbal what he should be doing, not listening to his other two coaches and trainer in there.
Yeah.
I think that for me. I think done his
he definitely. I mean, I saw something come out recently where Tyson Fury said, "Oh, I'm going to keep my same corner team," and I'm like, "You can't do that. As in, you need to just start."
Do you know what? It's fine to keep your.
Well, it's going to allow his dad to be in the corner.
But it's fine to allow that. It's fine to allow as long as his dad does that.
Yeah, zips it. Yeah.
Right? Because let me tell you this: there's no support that a father wouldn't give his son. That's anyone who's been in the sport. I've been in the sport. My dad couldn't give a but when you got a parent who cares, I ain't got a dad. When you got a parent who cares, they were always going to support the kids, and that's the way it is. So you kind of get that, and you don't want your son, even if he is the world heavyweight champion and holds all the belts anyway, right? He's had them all. You still don't want to get hurt, and I totally get that. However, when you've got two experienced trainers in your corner, you've got Andy Lee, former world champion, Sugar Hill, come up through that Kronk style, fight style, who's literally been there, seen it, done it. Do you know what I mean? You don't really need any sort of part-time quarterbacks that realistically didn't really do anything inside of that boxing ring. Now, I'm not disputing he ain't hard. Right? I'm not. However, if you want to argue about who's harder, you wouldn't be going to Big John Fury. You'd be going to a very close relative of his, right? Who do you think I'm talking about, Max?
Peter Fury.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I was with Peter Fury. I think you were there as well, Max. We were in Telford with Tom Welland. Yeah, and we were doing some filming for him. And what a nice bloke. Peter come over, says hello, and doesn't know you from Adam.
He's completely different.
It's just not loud at all.
He's not as loud as him, but trust if you upset him, I
think the difference is that Peter's obviously been through the whole boxing coaching kind of thing. He's managed fighters and stuff in the past, hasn't he? Whereas John's very much claim to fame is that his son's
Tyson.
Tyson's basically his claim to fame, and obviously his cousins Huey, Peter's a very, very good coach. He's had Savannah Marshall and a few others, that have come through and been phenomenal.
Yeah, well, he's training Matty Harris at the moment,
Yeah,
isn't he?
Magic Hands, Matty Harris. Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming up like a little young heavyweight coming through the ranks.
You've got some good young talented heavyweights coming across the ranks, but I tell you what, they're being very careful to keep them all apart.
Yeah, they will do. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what though? That's the thing. I mean, when they get to that level that Fraser Clark and Fabio Wardley are at, that's the level where they need to be fighting each other now. There's none of this. Sick to death of these fights that don't
I'm
happen.
glad you've mentioned them two.
Oh, here we go.
I'm glad you've mentioned them two. Do you think Johnny Fisher, and Moses, not Moses yet, but do you think Johnny Fisher is ready to take on either of them
Not
two?
not yet. He's almost there. He's almost there. He's about, I would say, maybe a couple of fights off. I think given...
Okay, so Scott, I'm going to lay this on you, right? I'm going to lay it on you strong, right? Who would you give... Right, now think about the answer to this. You got two really good young bucks coming along right now. Moses Atuma. Max was kind enough to keep him awake all on the plane journey home from Poland, snoring his head off. Right, with a Daniel Dubois, Alexander Usyk. And then I was told Moses he had to slap
me.
He had to slap him because he was taking the piss at me for abandoning him because I had to go back for a wedding. So I went to one night is all I spent in Poland. It was terrible just to do the press conference. So you've got Moses Atuma and you've got obviously Johnny Fisher. Who do you put in next with Moses Atuma? And who do you put in next with Johnny Fisher? Because this is the next version of Fury versus AJ for the next generation, I think.
It is. I think for me, Atuma, in my eyes, is ahead of Fisher. I think he's natural raw talent. He's just far better. I think for Fisher, you've got to go with someone like a David Adelaide. Personally, I think that's the next step for Johnny Fisher. If not, maybe you could even say that Adelaide's maybe a step too far. Maybe he does need to get in there with someone like a Dave Allen, a journeyman who's sort of been in there with the big boys. Atuma, though, I would be chucking Atuma in with the winner of Wardley versus Clark. And to be honest with you, I would back Atuma to beat both of them guys. I think he's just raw talent.
Yeah.
The power, the way that he moves in the ring as well. It's not like he's just a plodding heavyweight like a few of these guys are. He's fast.
Yeah.
He's fast. He's powerful. And I do think he'd do the job over both of them. He wants to become a world champion quicker than Mike Tyson. And if I'm honest with you,
I don't think he's not going to do that.
I don't know. You just got to look at it though from a point of view of look at where the heavyweight division is right now. Your three main guys are going to be retiring. It's going to literally leave Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker, and you can argue maybe Zhile Zhang if he stays around for that long. Other than them guys,
Zhile Zhang's 40 years old, so he's not.
That's right.
He's not going to be.
I'll tell you what. I'm glad you said a good piece on Moses because I said last year he would become a young heavyweight champion of the world. And I've got absolutely slated online for it.
I'm going to slate you now. I don't wait for online last time. I'm going to say, let me tell you why I don't think that's going to happen.
Listen, Tyson Fury said it.
No, hang on.
I'll agree with it. Yeah, he's going to be the next heavyweight champion.
But Tyson would say something like that because he's Frank Warren's boy. But let me tell you why that's not going to happen. Let me tell you. Let me have a think. Tyson Fury. That's why that's not going to happen. Alexander Usyk. That's why that's not going to happen. Because these guys are not going to retire.
Them two.
Wait a sec.
Their careers. They're going to be gone soon.
Yeah, but it ain't going to be in the next 2 years, and you've got too many people above him at his young age before he hits 21, and then of course he's older than Tyson. So I'm not saying he won't become a heavyweight, but because of the way the ranking systems are and because of the way the heavyweights only fight twice a year when they win world titles, because it takes an awful lot. Riyadh season, of course, may change that with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, but I'm just thinking that because of the way boxing is set up, that's not going to be a tradition. You take Tyson back in his heyday, 18 fights or 15 fights in 1 year. That doesn't happen, and that's the problem. You're not getting the ring time that you need.
Yeah,
and it's not because he's not got the talent.
He's going to lose again come December. Right? Did you hear Bellew's interview with IFL? He said Tyson's going to lose.
Do you know what? I have had the opinion of Tyson Fury versus Usyk since the fight happened and since the scorecards came out. That Fury was going to go in there. He was going to change his game plan entirely, and Tyson Fury was going to beat Alexander Usyk. And then I've seen a load of stuff come out in the press about him obviously getting hauled out of pubs and, not taking it seriously. The whole fact of him coming out and saying it's going to be an easy fight. The fact that he's saying he doesn't need to change anything, he
Yeah.
doesn't need to change his corner. And for me, it's one of them where after that first Deontay Wilder fight, Tyson Fury knew that he needed to change the game plan. He couldn't fight on the back foot, outboxing Deontay Wilder, because all it took at that point for Wilder was one shot, and that's it, lights out. And it almost happened. You could argue that Tyson Fury should have been stopped in that final round of the first Deontay Wilder fight because it was a slow count. I was expecting him to do the same kind of thing against Usyk.
I'm shaking his head.
Honestly, I was honestly expecting him to do the same thing against Usyk, but yeah, I mean, it could be smoke and mirrors.
This is your last appearance on Boxing Bantz. Right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you can come back anytime you want. Cause you...
Yeah.
Now listen, let me tell you why I think
Listen, Tyson Fury gets protected by the referee. No matter what
that last
he's in.
Deontay Wilder one, I honestly thought it was game over for him. And when you watch it back, it is very much the same as...
Yeah, when he got cracked, and then up to that, he had like a 20-second
any other
count.
referee other than Jack Reese is waving that off. As soon as he's head hit the floor and snapped back up like that, any other referee is waving that off. Like, that's a knockout for any other referee. And then the actual count as well. If you actually watch it and count it next to a stop clock, it was 12 seconds. So should it have been stopped? Was Deontay Wilder done out of it there? I think it's 50-50 because obviously it shouldn't have been a draw. Tyson Fury, if he didn't get knocked down in that last round, won that convincingly. And Tyson Fury was robbed of the win, given that he did get back up. And officially the referee said, you're okay to carry on kind of thing. He should have won that. It should have been the best comeback of all time. And he was robbed of that. But again, if you got to feel for Deontay Wilder a little bit, he could have beat Tyson Fury.
No.
he could have closed that chapter.
Listen, I like the bombs, mama.
I don't feel guilty. I don't feel guilty for him at all. Right? Not at all. Listen, let me tell you a little story about Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder does not have the boxing ability to beat anybody in the top 10, and couldn't. And you know what? I said that from day one. I said Zilly Zhang's going to batter him, and what did he do? He battered him. I said he wouldn't beat Joseph Parker because he is not good enough, and he didn't beat Joseph. But he didn't even get close to Joseph Parker. Max was making the excuse. He's on magic mushrooms. Listen, he could have been on Mars, mate. It would have made no difference. And when you fight a top 10 heavyweight, right? And when you fight a top 10 heavyweight and you cannot box, you get found out. You can sit there and you can tell me as much as you like. You can fight 48 bums, 48 cab drivers, 48 dustbin men, all in a row and bang each one of them out. And when you face a guy who's 128 years old, to my certain knowledge, in Ortiz, and you struggle, you really see the cat from the trees. Do you know what I mean?
He struggled twice.
and he struggled twice. And he has got one punch in his arsenal, and that's it. And when you nullify that, you have nothing left. And I said that right from the one. And I said to Max, no. I went, you don't know shit about boxing. And what have I proved?
Fury set the game plan, and I think that's the part of it. If that Fury fight doesn't happen, I don't know if anybody, maybe Anthony Joshua, fans that game plan to actually go and stick it on Deontay Wilder. I think everybody else fights it in a completely different way. And I think that confidence factor vanished from Deontay Wilder after he got absolutely battered by Fury in that second fight. So I think, if them three...
And the third fight was even worse.
Well, the third fight, he had more success in the third fight for me. There was a few times where it looked a little bit rocky for Fury. He got knocked down twice in it. He sort of went on the back foot.
Let me... I'm a Fury fan, right? But let me tell you why, right? Right. No, listen. But
you can't tell, can you?
No, I'll tell you why I'm a Fury fan, right? I reversed into his lamppost at Morecambe Football Club, and he didn't blame me too much. Max did because I damaged the BM, but he was all right. It's all right.
Yeah, I was on the phone. I went, wait, mind the BM.
Bang! Whoops! I couldn't see it. Anyway, right. So let me. It's just simple geometry, right? And it's simple centre of gravity. When you're 6'9" in the air, it's like Jenga. It's easy to push the top over. So Tyson Fury isn't that difficult to knock down. The problem you've got with Tyson Fury is keeping him down. Yeah. There hasn't been anybody who can hit hard enough, including Deontay Wilder. And here's the kicker for this. Deontay Wilder does not hit as hard as people think he does. Just because you sit there and knock out 48 bums doesn't make you able to do it. If I sat there, if I Scotty and chucked you in with a load of 10-year-olds and goes help yourself, right, you'd spark them all. Yeah. However, if I then sit there and say, okay, come and jump in the ring with me, I mean, I'm 6'1", 340 pounds. It's going to be a different argument. Do you know what I mean? You still probably do it, but I'm just saying it's a different game. Yeah. Right? It's a different game, and that's the point. Yeah. When you've got someone that big, it's easy to knock them down. And I don't think he was actually that hurt in that fight, right? Because he sort of went down, he looked up and thought, what the f***?
Yeah,
and then he's can hear the counting and he's getting up. You can't blame the fighter for a slow referee count. You really can't. And he's certainly not the only one.
Tyson,
now, if you want to ask me about controversial ones, you want to ask me about controversial fights, then go and talk to me about the Tyson Fury Francis Ngannou fight, because that was a piss take, absolute piss take, and a total travesty. Should never have even.
Listen, we all know.
He didn't train.
He never trained for it. He weren't interested in it. His mind was on Netflix deals, doing a series, having a baby. I don't think he's on.
You could tell he turned up into that fight looking like an absolute bag of milk. So it's one of them things where when you look at Tyson Fury, like, you could see he hadn't taken it seriously. And I think Ngannou, just because he's a big, strong guy, I think that I think he expected to come out Tyson Fury and do what he did to Deontay Wilder, and Fury for me he doesn't hit that hard, so I don't think he could get the respect from Ngannou. That being said, I do think that Tyson Fury won that fight. I think when you watch it, I think he did absolutely. He outboxed him. He got embarrassed, Fury. No doubt about that. He got embarrassed. Probably did nothing for his confidence going into the Usyk fight. So, having that on your record, he did win the fight 100%. No one can tell me otherwise on that. But he should have done what Anthony Joshua did.
See, Max, you don't know shit about boxing.
He literally should have come out and done what Anthony Joshua did. Anthony Joshua showed exactly how you get a novice boxer out of the ring. You come out and absolutely level.
Yeah. Listen, Josh, I hit him and meant it.
Well, fortunately, one of my companies I run, Dewey Cooper, is actually one of my bosses in a company called TCL. So we had Dewey on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, which is Francis Ngannou's trainer. And I didn't want to argue with my boss live on air because I kind of like keeping our job. So Max and I both worked with TCL during the week, which Dewey Cooper is the president of. And he said, on the fight, the fact we're debating it, and I just sat there and thought to myself, you know what, at least he has a point of view, and it was a good argument, because unless you go up and do what Joshua did, you can't really sort of argue either way. And we've seen lots of controversial fights like that. The last Katie Taylor fight, for example, against Chantel Cameron was an absolute robbery, in my opinion. Eddie Hearn, and I love Eddie, and he speaks to me a lot, and we've had lots of chats, haven't we, Max, over the last year or so with Eddie.
Yeah, we have.
And I put it to him after the first Katie Taylor fight, Chantel Cameron fight, you should really do this one at Wembley, mate, and go up for Katie Taylor's weight. And he goes, oh, yeah, perhaps we'll put it to her. Bullshit, he had no intention of doing that. He took her back to Ireland and just basically robbed her, I think. However, Chantel's with Frank now, so it should be interesting. And where's Katie Taylor? What's she done with it? Nothing.
She's fighting Serrano again, isn't she, on the Mike Tyson undercard? Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. So that'd be a good one. The first fight was decent on that one. But I do think it is an easy fight for her. All I can think of from Katie Taylor's point of view is she's been there and done it all. She gets a big payday from the Amanda Serrano fight. Goes and beats Amanda Serrano again. I do think she will beat her again. I think it will be more convincing than the first fight. And then I think maybe she closes out her career with that trilogy fight against Chantel Cameron. Hopefully it's for an undisputed belt. Very, very hard to hang on to all of the belts for that long, especially in boxing nowadays.
Yeah, but then they stripped Katie off her belt, couple of her belts.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
They did, didn't they?
But they've got to do something, because all these belts getting tied up. Mind you, I hate the 5-belt era or the 4-belt era.
Yeah, there is too many. There is too many for me. I think I won't want to go down to one. I definitely won't want to go down to one, because I think that's what differentiates boxing from the UFC. You're never going to have a massive unification fight in the UFC, or an undisputed fight, should we say, because you're only going to have an interim champion like a Tom Aspinall, for example, versus a John Jones. John Jones is the full champion. Aspinall's an interim. It's the same way as Manuel Char coming up and fighting Usyk.
Now that being said, so Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudis are buying everything at the moment. They're already doing a deal with the PFL, which is where Francis Ngannou is going back to fight. They've done a deal with the UFC. There's talk about them going after Bama and a couple of other cage fight companies. We could see exactly that. But what we're in danger of right now is the fact that obviously I will give it to Turkey and I really thank him for everything he's done for boxing. However, the atmosphere over there in Riyadh is not what it is like at Wembley Stadium. Nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. And this is no disrespect to Turkey Al Sheikh and anybody that's done it. His Excellency has done an absolute fantastic job. Please don't throw us out of the next event.
To chuck the money away, you know what I mean?
But I do think when it comes to big time boxing, you are never going to replace Wembley. You are never going to replace Madison Square Garden, and you're never going to replace the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. You just can't do it for atmosphere. You cannot do it. And legends were fighting in those rings, and that's what it is. I'm not doubting that the Saudis are going to do well. But one thing I will say, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had any of the fights that we've had over the last 12, 18 months. And I'm so grateful for it. But I just think, now that they've started branching out, September 21st, Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua in Wembley is going to be an absolutely fantastic event. Daniel, if you've ever met him, a really, really humble man. And his sister's great as well. And I just think, what a spectacle. However, sorry,
we
Daniel,
could see a little upset that fight, you know what I mean?
I don't know about that.
No, that's where we both say, Max, you don't know shit about boxing.
No, hear me out, right? Hear me out, right? We all know Joshua is the supreme athlete. He's got it all, he's had it all. But I don't think he can take a dig. I think if Dubois hits him, round the side of the head, I think Joshua's going to be in trouble.
Listen, right. Joshua. The problem is. Let me tell you, Joshua ain't no Jarrell Miller.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Right. No. You are dealing with. You're not. This time round, Daniel Dubois is not fighting the Pillsbury Doughboy. Right. He is not fighting 360 pounds of out of shape, absolute unit that is just a walking punch bag. Unfortunately, anybody, and this is no disrespect to Joe, we've been with Joe, we were with Joe in London, we were with Joe up there when he did his last show when he lost against Derek Chisora. No disrespect, but if Daniel Dubois cannot deal with a Joe Joyce, you are never going to deal with an Anthony Joshua trained by Ben Davidson. You just are not going to do it.
I think after Dubois' fight with Miller to the one with Ergovic, I thought there was a big difference.
There was in gas tank and there was in his ability, but I think it's the Hergovic one for me that makes me think that Anthony Joshua is going to level him within 3 or 4 rounds. Because if you come out there and take the straight rights off of Joshua that he did against Hergovic, that's a very, very tough night. You might be able to shake him off and you might be able to do this and that against someone like a Hergovic who historically hasn't hit that hard. Anthony Joshua has got dynamite in his hands, and I think if he lands 2 or 3, I think it's getting.
He's having dynamite in your hands and
Yeah, but that's the point. Daniel Dubois is not hard to hit.
Yeah, he doesn't move his head. He never moves his head.
Let's also not listen.
Well, I think he's going to learn to move his head.
Yeah, but it's too late after you've landed in row 5 being picked up by Frank Warren. Yeah. And I just listen. Let me tell you something. Daniel Dubois is 3 years ahead of his time.
Yeah, he is.
He has been in with Alexander Usyk. We were there. Usyk dealt with him, and you know what? I actually take my hat off to Daniel Dubois because I think that was a legitimate punch, and me and Max have argued about that. No. And anyway, so we're not going to go back to that, right? But I honestly believe that Daniel Dubois, although I know he's now the full champion, but he didn't win it off a former champion, and I think that he's going to have something he can keep in his medal case for a while. But I think at the moment he is not. He's not that final article, and I think that he needs to sit there and think after this Joshua fight, because I don't believe he beats Joshua. I can't see how he is going to do it. And don't get me wrong, Don Charles, great trainer, wouldn't be my pick for Daniel. I would probably want to go back to someone like Shane McGuigan, who he came from, obviously, or even go down the route of probably looking to Sugar Hill, because what he needs is more of a killer instinct, and he doesn't have it. He does not have it. Do you know who he reminds me of? Frank Bruno. He lacks that killer instinct. Really, Frank Bruno, when he was fighting other people, he had it. But the minute you get put up against talent, he doubts the ability. You know?
Listen, he doubted himself when he had Tyson rocked and never finished him.
Yeah,
and Tyson
but
got back, and that was it.
But Daniel Dubois has the same problem.
He does. He's too nice of a guy.
Right? He is a real character, Daniel, and he, you know, and we first started doing this.
Well, perhaps he's going to see a changed man. You know what I mean? He might have it in him. You might think, oh yeah, I've got to have it.
He seems to, doesn't he?
Like I said, he wasn't.
Yeah, he seems to. After that, gloves are off or whatever they did, you know, the face to face and that, where he got up and said like, "I'm not scared of you," kind of thing, and Joshua went up.
Yeah, you can't intimidate me. Come on, let's go now then.
Now, let me say a little thing about that. We did an interview with Eddie Hearn, and Max went, "How come when Daniel and Josh got up, you went out the way?" And Frank jumped in between. Frank was straight in there like a pit bull, mate. No, whatever it is. He went, well, I'll fancy him and give him a slap.
He's going, well, listen, when Joshua goes...
I think it's that thing that... It's a tactical move, though, isn't it? You know, Frank's age and stuff like that. You know, if you're about to get in a scrap with your brother and your dad jumps in the way, you might have a go at your dad. You know, if your granddad jumps in the way, you're not going to bother right here, you know. Let's not pensioner.
Sit down, Pops. Sit down. But I just think...
listen, Frank's a legend, mate. He's been in the ring like with Roy Shaw. You know, they were real heavy.
Frank was the old school of British boxing, wasn't he, at the end? You know, he was the promoter. He was where Eddie Hearn is now, do you know what? 25 years ago, you know, 30 odd years ago, you know, Frank was the British promoter. You know, Box Nation's only a channel because of Frank Warren. You know, it's that kind of thing where he is, you know, he is a legend. He's a Hall of Fame promoter. I just think he's been unfortunate from a money point of view that, you know, Matchroom have always had the money. They've always seemed to have got first pick over the Olympians. You know, obviously they've not just got the thingy. They had the promotional deal with Sky off of the back of the darts, obviously being there. So, you know, Frank got done out a little bit there.
But that is what I tell you what. So I'd like to call Frank the father of boxing. And I like to call Bob Arum the granddad of boxing. And when I sit there and I look at Frank. Now, obviously we've dealt with Frank, we've dealt with Eddie, and both of them have changed the sports to a whole new level.
100%.
Yeah, and I certainly am absolutely honoured to be involved in professional boxing at this era. Do you know what I mean? Because I think this is the era that changes everything.
Yep.
You know, you've got a lot more fighters now in a lot more dramatical fights that are protected in a way, and I'm really grateful to be involved in it. But here's a question I want to ask you, Scott, and get your opinion on it. Saudi Arabia Riyadh season, good or bad for boxing?
Brilliant for boxing, but I do think that Turki Al Sheikh needs to drop his ego a little bit. I think he came in very humble, and there's a few things that have come out recently. The fact that he didn't like the way that Canelo has been sort of speaking about him. You know, the fact that Canelo has said, don't like the way he does business. And now he's also going on that same route with Tim Tszyu, saying, I don't want to work with Tim Tszyu anymore. And he's coming out quite publicly about it, which is writing off some massive fights. Do you know, for me, the biggest fight in boxing.
Yeah, listen, that could be. It
will be. It will be, because people eventually won't work.
Not so much. Well, yeah, I think what will happen, the whole Saudi boxing will be there, but Turki Al Sheikh will get the elbow.
Someone else to replace him, and someone else to replace him won't be good, because he's actually a boxing, boxing purist, it would be. Yeah, he's a proper fan, you know. He watches all of the undercards. He's not just this. He's not just someone who watches main event fighters and all that kind of stuff. You know, he's got his. He's got his favourites. You know, and some of his favourites aren't even fighters that you would have ever heard of. So it's that kind of thing where he's good for boxing. I just think when things don't go his way, he's showing his true colours a little bit. You know, for me, I know Canelo's got an ego himself. You know, he's the diva of boxing because he's the face of boxing right now, realistically. So he is the 100%. Money man. if I'm taking Al Sheikh, I'm giving him whatever he wants to fight Crawford, because outside of Tyson Fury, in fact, with the loss to Usyk, Crawford versus Canelo probably is the biggest fight in boxing. Like now, you getting that global reach.
Yeah, especially now Crawford's a
Yeah.
weight champion
Yeah.
and all that. They've
Yeah,
got
and the
to
fact that
fight.
Crawford-
They've got to.
yeah.
But do you think Crawford's got it in him to fight Canelo? Because he's
It is a big jump up, yeah. But
you know?
apparently on the night against Madrimov, he weighed in at 169 pounds on the night. So he'd be fighting Canelo at
Yeah.
168. I know Canelo would obviously be bigger because he's got weight.
Canelo would be 182 by
Yeah,
the
he
time
would.
that.
Yeah,
that
he
thing
would.
comes in.
But
And this is one thing that people don't realise about someone like Canelo. He's been fighting professionally since he was 15 years old.
yeah.
That is some doing, and you've got a Mexican who looks like an Irishman who fights like an American, and if ever you've got a best mashup in boxing, that's it. Who lost to a Russian who and obviously another American. How does Crawford, in your opinion, beat Canelo? Given the fact, does he try to do the Canelo Bivol thing, but the other way around?
I don't think he beats him at 168. I don't think he has any chance of beating Canelo at 168. I think Canelo will be too big. I think Canelo's style, he would just walk him down, and Crawford would have to be perfect for 12 rounds. It's not going to be like Madrimov, where Madrimov was, very cagey and very, using that sort of Soviet style against him. This is as you say, a guy with a Mexican sort of style crossed with an American style, crossed with like a Cuban style. He's absolutely unbelievable. He carries massive power, and he also hits very hard to the body, which Crawford doesn't tend to get hit to the body too much. So I don't think he beats him at 168, but at 160, I think that is a fair fight, because Canelo's got to drop weight, he's got to cut weight, and Crawford's realistically got to come up to a weight where his power is basically going to be non-existent. So I think at 160, it's 50-50, and I think he's got to switch it enough to confuse Canelo. I think you box southpaw and you try and almost do what Billy Joe Saunders did to Canelo, without getting your eye socket fractured. It's that kind of fight.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what though, just talking about Canelo, Amir Khan.
Yeah.
He was winning until he got absolutely
He was. He was winning.
And the question is, was that the best knockout you've ever seen?
Yeah.
It's got to be the best knockout in the last 10 years.
All right, let me give a close one. I can't remember his name. The name slips to my mind. The guy who knocked Pacquiao out, how he was like KO'd before he hit the floor and then smacked straight on his face. Is it Marquez? Martinez, that's it.
Oh, no, it wasn't Marquez.
I mean,
might have been Marquez,
yeah, but which is the best knockout?
I think from a purely picture taking sort of camera moment, I think it's got to be the Canelo one, because Amir Khan literally, his body went limp and he went backwards and his arms went up in the air.
He just dropped.
It was like,
but I'll tell you what though, Canelo knew he hurt him because he actually went back to him.
Yeah, made sure he was all right. Yeah, there was no one. The referee didn't.
Referee
killed
him.
He did, yeah. Referee didn't even do a count; just waved him straight, like that.
As he did,
that's game over. Yeah, hands down.
And that's as he was tapping his gloves just at the start of the match. That's it. You're out.
Yeah, there was no. He wasn't getting back up from that. Like nobody was getting up from that. Well, it's difficult because obviously you would say maybe it loses a little bit of respect because of Amir Khan, his chin not being the greatest, but I think if Canelo lands that exact punch on any other fighter, I think it goes in the same way. That's a peach of a punch. That.
But just going back to Crawford's last fight, they were saying like, is his age catching up with him? Right?
No, it's a lot of people have got this narrative.
You've got to think, Canelo, they're roughly the similar age, aren't they?
Yeah. They're around the same. They're the same age. Canelo's obviously been around for longer because he's, as you say, he started at 15 years old. You can, Canelo's obviously fought the more tough opposition because no one wanted to fight Crawford. All of them on the PBC side avoided him like the plague. None of them wanted to get in the ring until Errol Spence went, do you know what? He's the only person I've got to fight in this division that is going to give me an actual challenge, so I'm going to jump in with him. And then he got beat up, anyway, but that's the thing, no one wanted to fight Crawford, but because of that, he's not had the calibre of opposition that Canelo's fought. But Yeah, they're around the same. They're at the same age. I wouldn't say that the whole age thing is catching up with Crawford at all. I think Madrimov for me is criminally underrated as a fighter. I think when you look at
He's
yeah,
ranking
when you look
after that
when
fight,
you
I
look
think,
at Madrimov
definitely.
and the way that he basically took it within 2 rounds against the pound for pound, in my eyes, number three, and made it a really really tough fight for him. Made him think more than any other fighter that he's been in there with, including Errol Spence, who was pound for pound top five at the time. When you're making somebody like that really have to think and taking him to the wire, I think Madrimov deserves a bit more respect. It's nothing to do with Crawford and his age and all that kind of stuff, or even Crawford moving up. I just think that Madrimov's style, he probably beats everybody other than Terence Crawford at super welterweight. You could argue that he could probably go up to middleweight and probably beat everybody there as well. I think we're going to see Madrimov potentially go on a run of victories that lasts maybe 10 years. Can't see anybody else beating him.
No.
It's always
Yeah,
an
no,
interesting
I
take.
think that's quite right.
Yeah,
That,
it's
yeah.
just it's that thing. Obviously, everybody has one bad performance, and then you're not as good as as we thought you was, and then you come back and have 1,000,001 good performances. You can argue that Daniel Dubois versus Usyk didn't look as good as he was, and then he went in and put a career best performance on against Tyson Fury and almost stopped him. When most people said he wouldn't even scrape him.
I think he actually stopped him in the ninth round. I think he was saved by the
Yeah,
ref and then
I
saved by
do
the
agree
belt.
to some extent, but I think the referee did the right thing.
Listen, he's shaking his head. He's shaking his head. But in the ninth round, right, when Usyk was punching him all over the place, Usyk had to throw the ref out of the way a few times. Get him
Yeah,
away.
I think the ref.
Right,
So he
let
could
me
hit
tell
him.
you why I disagree with that. Now, Tyson Fury's been known as the boxing clown for a long, long time. Right, he plays about.
He wasn't fucking clowning around. Let me tell you
No,
that.
no, hang on,
He was,
hang on. But you don't know. So, he's been called the boxing clown before. That isn't because he's a joke. It is because he mucks about in the ring. He messed about in that fight, and it ultimately cost him. If he wasn't dicking around in the first 6 rounds, he should have stopped Usyk round 6.
Yep.
He should have stopped him. He was
but he
dicking
didn't.
around and dicking around and dicking around. And that's one man in this world you don't dick about with. Because Usyk is not big enough to stop Tyson. He really isn't. Usyk does not
well,
stop.
listen, come
Hang
December
on, I have not
21st,
finished.
it's going to be Usyk 2.
Right. Yeah. Tyson Fury, Usyk 2, and it's going to be 1-1. And I'm telling you, all the belts will be disbanded after that, and then it'll be fighting for legacy if Usyk wants it. Usyk has nothing left to prove other than honour. He is honouring the rematch, but he didn't have to. And at the end of the day, when you sit there and look at it, this Tyson Fury, mark my words, guys, this Tyson Fury will be a different Tyson Fury to the one that we've had before. Because this time, he will
Listen,
not...
he'll be buying me lunch when he loses 2-0.
No, listen, you owe me about 15 lunches by now, so you wouldn't even claw one back. So I think that at the end of the day, if you get there and speak to Tyson, and I think when he hears this, because he will eventually, I'll tell you a little story in a minute, Scott, about when Tyson Fury hears Max, right? So let me... So,
I offered him out.
You're a braver
he wants to
man
do a
than me.
spar with him. So he sent it to Cougar. And Cougar went, I'll sort that. Over at IFL. So when he hears this, I mean, I honestly believe that Tyson Fury will not take this second fight as literally as he did the first fight. This time, he's gonna have Sugar Hill telling him, don't be a twat. Get out there and finish it. He made the same mistake Joshua did. Joshua hurt Usyk to the stomach and then left it. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's obvious this man is sweet to the stomach.
Yeah,
right?
he is. Yeah.
And I will be the first one
Listen,
to put my
Mike,
hands in the air and say I
Usyk
love
took-
Usyk. Absolutely love him.
Everything. Listen, Usyk took everything Tyson threw at him. Right, there's no denying that. He took the body shots, took the uppercuts, head shots, you name it. Usyk took them.
He did.
You
He
know,
did.
there's no
He did,
denying
he did.
it.
And he
No,
came
no,
back
I'm
on
not
the-
saying that.
That was in the 6th
What-
round.
but what
Come
I'm-
9th round,
Yeah.
run around, bosh, some of that.
Yeah, but
Give
let's
him the left hander. Didn't wanna know.
let's be honest. That knockdown was the only difference.
Yeah,
in
it
that
was
fight.
the breaking.
Right.
Him popping his
that was
nose
it.
in the round before the knockdown. That's what did it. Once he popped his nose and he realised, right, I can actually damage this absolute giant of a man. That was when Usyk's mindset changed, and it was
Yeah.
like, right, maybe I can actually get him out of here. So, and Tyson Fury again, he went from being an aggressor back onto the back foot, and Usyk picked him off. I don't think it was a stoppage. I think the referee did the right thing. I think that the referee.
Thank you.
I think the referee jumping in was right because Tyson Fury would have got, if that was in the middle of the ring, Fury would have hit the canvas. The ropes did keep him up. I saw a lot of people going, "Oh well, the referee got in the way and he was going to wave it off, but then he couldn't, and this, that, and the other." But for me, if the ropes are the only thing that are keeping you up, for fighter safety, you've got to jump in there and you've got to give what would be conceived as perceived as a standing
Yeah, but
count.
my argument was the ref jumped in like literally a split second. As soon as his hair on his arm touched the ring post,
He
that was
was.
it.
He
Jumped
was. He
in,
was
yeah,
not.
stop.
He was falling back. Like you could see him. He was almost lolled against the ropes.
But
But how many times have you seen Tyson Fury
listen,
do the
that was my
Matrix?
old view. That was my old view. After hearing an interview with Usyk, and I asked him the question, "Why didn't you hit Tyson when he hit the corner?" He went, "Why
Yeah.
should I? He's got a
Yeah,
family."
yeah. He would have knocked him out if
You
he
know.
did. But then again, we would have had. It would have been.
And you don't know what sort of damage it's going to cause. So that was my old view, but after hearing the
Yeah.
Usyk,
Yeah, but,
sort of couple of
he
weeks
said-
ago,
he
I
said the
changed
same
my
thing
Alexander
with
mind.
David, didn't
Usyk
he?
is one of
He said,
Alexander Usyk is one of the nicest guys in boxing. We were with him in Poland, making everybody cups of tea and coffee. You wouldn't believe the guy was the world heavyweight champion. You would not believe it, right? Dancing around in the ring, always got time for everybody. And we were sat next to him. We were, he's an incredible human being, and he does think like that. But this time Fury, I don't think. Listen, I always think fighters with big egos never come back, and I can give you a list of them, right? To give you a list of fighters with big
So I
egos
think
never
it's
come
going
back.
to depend on the
But
night
I think
what
he's
Fury
different.
turns up.
Yeah, but I think Fury is a different kettle of fish.
You know, but you said this on on that actual fight.
Yeah, but
I think this is going
listen,
to happen. When I
but
said to you, Usy's going to win, you went, "You know about boxing. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, but hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Let me put it. I didn't think Tyson Fury's going to come out acting the total goat. That's what I didn't think. And when I'm saying all this, I didn't think his dad was going to cause all the grief. I didn't know any of this. If you tell me on boxing ability and probability, Tyson Fury should have won that fight. If he was pissing about, that cost him. He didn't pay.
Yeah, but he should have, could have.
Hang on, no.
And that's it. It's just got to go over
Yeah,
it.
I've got over it. I'm too fat. I'll get up and walk around it. Now listen. So, in my opinion, this next time, knowing Tyson and looking at his formal record, but more, let me tell you what I think is going to be the difference. Tyson Fury's mental wellness is what's the difference. He will know this time. He is going to go out to prove that this was a lucky, a lucky
fluke?
one. Yeah, because he was easily winning. He was ahead, right
I think
up.
if you listen to Bellew's interview with Coogan, I don't know if it's today, but I heard it today. He reckons that Usyk is going to win easily. He's just going to go on the back foot.
Usyk can't do that. If Usyk goes on the back foot,
Hang on a minute.
yeah.
Usyk cannot fight on the back foot. Usyk, what will happen is
that's what he
Mr.
reckons.
Tyson Fury is going to use his Dalsim arms. He's going to stand in his corner and punch him up in his own corner. If he does that, that is not going to be Usyk's style. Listen, you look at don't look how Bellew fought Usyk. Bellew got basically beaten up and then flattened.
He said after round 6, he said, "I didn't have it in me. I was so
you can't.
knackered."
With Bellew, with that fight, I've said this on multiple occasions. There's a few sort of lives that I've been on TikTok where people have slated me for it, but then watched it back and agreed. Bellew was up on the cards at the time of the stoppage, and Bellew was outboxing Usyk in that fight. It was just that Usyk put him under that much pressure mentally that Bellew was absolutely knackered and couldn't do it. You know,
He said, "He goes, I was
if
Lee," and he just
if Bellew had a little bit more in the gas tank, he could have beaten Alexander Usyk in that fight. He was outboxing him. He's the only man that I've seen in the ring that was, well, other than Tyson Fury for parts in that fight, where he's actually been outboxing the master boxer. And I don't think Tony Bellew gets enough credit for how he performed in that fight. I think people just look at the knockout and go, well, Usyk knocked you out. But we've got to give it, when it comes to Tony Bellew, his boxing IQ is brilliant.
Listen, I think Tony Bellew is a sort of a bit of an underrated
100%.
fighter.
Oh, he's incredible.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a brilliant fighter. I loved it when he beat David A.
Oh, twice.
Twice.
Yeah. I didn't. I stuck 50 quid on David A beating him by knockout, and he went and did his Achilles, didn't he?
Do you know what though? I sit there and I think about all the great fights that we've witnessed over the years, and some of the great fighters, and I do have to go back to Tyson Fury actually probably being the best of his breed, and let me tell you why I think about things like that. Now, this is a man who was only a pound in weight when he was born, wasn't going to survive, made it through that tough time. I know that that's nothing to do with boxing, but has gone to the top of the tree. Now, I know John McDermott, who nearly knocked Tyson Fury out in his very early career. You know, he's a guy from Essex where we grew up. And I sit there and look at that. But you look at all the controversy that Tyson's done. He blew up to 28 stone, cut 10 stone in weight, took Deontay Wilder to school. This is a guy who's supposed to be the number one heavyweight. Just basically beat him up for 36 rounds. That's what he did. And then I honestly believe, other than one other fighter, he is the only person I believe capable of beating Alexander Usyk. Do you know, the mistake he made is Tyson Fury is the only heavyweight fighter in the last probably since Muhammad Ali who is able to be a fighter and b a boxer. You're either one or other, and he has the ability to be both, and he proved that.
Look, don't hear what I think.
No, and then
Right. Right, I'll go in this.
Go on then.
Well, I reckon, right, my predictions, Usyk's going to win.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think he's going to take the Joshua fight, lose, and then Joshua's going to rock it out with Fury.
Well, yeah. See, what I want to happen so that it's a bigger fight is I want Fury to beat Usyk.
But I think it's all down to the Benjamins. I think if that happens, if Usyk wins, he's going to fight AJ for mega bucks.
That ain't the biggest money. That ain't the biggest money fight. The biggest money fight is Fury versus AJ.
No, but let me finish. That's going to be a mega fight, mega money, and then when AJ wins, third time lucky, he's going to fight Fury, and that'll be the end of Fury's career.
No, I'll tell you what's going to happen. And then Scotty, you got to be the edge. You are the
no
vote.
Disrespect to Fury. He's done absolutely fantastic for the sport, but he's going to end on probably a £200 million deal against AJ. Lose that fight, and he's going to retire.
This is what I think is going to happen.
He's won every belt going.
One second. So I'm going to give my opinion, and Scotty, you get to make the final, right? So this is my opinion on this fight. This is what's going to happen. Usyk is going to get stopped in 8 rounds by Fury. Inside of 8 rounds, and I tell you why. I think this is a different Fury coming in. Usyk gets stopped inside of 8. Usyk, I believe, then will retire or drop down to bridgerweight, possibly fighting Deontay Wilder if they could get that sorted out. I see AJ punching a big hole in Daniel Dubois' head, unfortunately, at this particular time. And then I see the biggest fight, monetary-wise, between AJ and Fury for all the marbles, less whatever they strip them of, for bragging rights. And I see that as the final curtain call for both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And I tell you why I say that, because I'm a genius. No, not really. So, Scotty, go on, tell us how you see this heavyweight thing playing itself out.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I do think that Tyson Fury, if I stick to my guns from what I've been saying, without all the smoke and mirrors from Tyson Fury, I do think that Tyson Fury will beat Usyk. I don't know whether it'll be a stoppage or whether it's going to be on points, but I do think he will beat Usyk. I think that after that, I think Usyk will be calling for a rematch because it's all about legacy for Alexander Usyk. But I think Turki Al-Sheikh will make Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and I'm hoping it will be at Wembley because I can't see anywhere on this earth that Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, it can't be over there.
Yeah.
There's got to be a London derby.
Yeah, and there's
got to come
for
back
me,
to
there's no
England.
point in having Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois at Wembley if there's not a plan in the works, win, lose or draw for Tyson Fury to fight Anthony Joshua at Wembley. It just would make no sense. So I think Joshua beats Dubois. I think he'll knock him out. I think AJ Fury will happen, and I think it'll be at Wembley. As you say, I think it will be a final curtain call for both guys. There's nothing for them to do after that, unless they want to run it back in a rematch, but I can't see it. I think it's just a one and done kind of fight. And I think there's a reason why Tyson Fury hasn't wanted to fight Anthony Joshua, and at every point in time, the fight hasn't happened, and I think that's because Anthony Joshua will beat Tyson Fury. I think it will be a knockout victory as well for Anthony Joshua. I think he'll become the first man to stop Tyson Fury. I think he'll knock him out maybe in round 10 or round 11, similar to how he knocked out Klitschko. I think it'll be similar to that.
I think as well. I mean, I think we're very close on that. I do think Anthony Joshua, and I've said for a long time, will stop Tyson Fury. Yeah. I think he's probably the only man. But on the proviso, and I think the reason Joshua lost against Usyk didn't have he lost against Andy Ruiz because there was something clearly wrong and he got caught on a dome.
Yeah.
Right. It did come out.
That's what's going to happen when he fights Dubois.
Yeah. They've been caught the same left hook.
What?
Yeah. You don't know shit about boxing.
Well,
and
listen, who thought Andy Ruiz was going to win?
Nobody.
No one.
Nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody.
But it could happen again.
Of course. This is boxing. These guys have got two hands and they both hit hard. That's...
Right, answer me this one then, boys. Right, imagine this. Dubois beats AJ. Does AJ retire? Or is there still the big mega fight with him?
Nah, I think if he loses to Dubois, there's no coming back from that one. I think it's a retirement.
I think that's an embarrassment loss. And this is no disrespect. Like I said, Daniel is 3 years ahead of where he should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he is not the finished article. And Don Charles probably going to hate me for this. If I was in Daniel's corner and I was Daniel's dad, because that's what matters in Daniel's life, I would be saying to him, "Listen, Daniel, you've got to get away. You honestly need someone who's going to put some speed in them hands. And unless you get away from someone like Don Charles, who's a great trainer, but let's face it, he is going to need an aggressive trainer who's going to teach him an aggressive way. You've got someone like Ben Davison, great trainer, defensive, clever boxing trainer. Yeah, you've got someone like Sugar Hill, is an aggressive boxing fighter trainer type deal. You've got to pick either one of them because Daniel's defense stinks and his attack lacks absolute critical mass. And see, the difference with Anthony Joshua is a fighter. And the reason he lost against Alexander Usyk is because some knobhead in his training camp told him he was a boxer. Some idiot sat there and said, "You know what, I think you're a boxer, Josh. You should sit there and box Usyk." "No, you shouldn't, Joshua." I would have said to him, "Do you know what you should do, Josh, come here, let me whisper in your ear. You should punch his fucking head in." That's what he should have done.
Listen,
punched his lights out.
We're shouting at the screen, go, "What are you doing? Carry on in the stomach." You clearly hurting him.
And this is the thing that people do not know.
Trying to take his head off if this weren't working.
And this is the thing that people don't know about boxing. Unless you've ever been in that squared circle, you need to learn the difference between a great boxer and a great fighter. And like I said before,
what was AJ's coach saying? You're winning the fight.
Yeah.
Spencer Oliver afterwards was like, what?
Remember?
As well. I think, and like I'll say it, there is only in my knowledge in the heavyweight division, only ever been in the last 40, 50 years, two fighters who are capable of being both. Muhammad Ali was one, and the other one is Tyson Fury. Because there's very few fighters who can be both. Dr. Steelhammer was a great fighter, but he wasn't a brilliant boxer. Yeah, Alexander Usyk is a fantastic boxer, but a shit fighter. And when the shit hits the fan with a big, big heavyweight, if you can't take out Derek Chisora, there's a problem. There is a real problem when you're that size, and that's the difference. Alexander Usyk is probably, pound for pound, the best fighter there is. I would argue even better than Canelo.
Easy.
But you are going to get found out against someone who's not dicking around, who is 6'9" and hits like a steam train. And he can do that from angles. And that is the frightening part about Tyson Fury. He forgot what he is.
Well,
let's hope all
this happens then, We see the 6'9" warrior hit him all over the place.
Yeah, but the trouble is he can hit him all over the place from his own corner, and that's the part of the thing. And that's the thing. But and that's where I believe, guys, that we're going to see this massive Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, because it has to happen. Otherwise, it's going to be a total travesty for the boxing world, and then we'll be ever for arguing in 10, 20 years, What if? What
Yep.
if?
We
What
don't.
if?
Yeah, we don't want. Well, to be fair, we've already got it in a similar aspect to Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. At least we got to see that fight. Even if it happened 10 years too late.
Yeah, but for me, I think that's many
It was,
years too
yeah.
late.
And do you know what? I do
That
think
fight.
that Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua is too many years too late. It should have happened a while back.
Yeah, definitely. That should have happened in
Yeah,
2018 or
But
something.
let me put this out there. The same thing is going to happen if Johnny Fisher doesn't fight Moses Atuma, because that is the next thing that's coming down the pipe that these two want. No
You've got to
disrespect,
think
Sol.
Johnny Fisher's got 6 years, 7 years on his age.
Yeah.
As well. That's what you got to think of.
Yeah.
Johnny Fisher, really, 26.
Atuma will
Moses
leapfrog
only
him though,
19.
for me. I think Atuma will leapfrog him. I think.
But this is where we got such a great young heavyweight division here in the UK. And I know some of our fans are going, listen, you ain't sat down to trash nothing but our American boxers. That's because at the moment they're
they're dreadful. They're dreadful. They're dreadful.
Absolutely
Jared Anderson
terrible.
is probably the worst heavyweight I've seen in a long time.
And his praises were being sung for a long time. It's something about the American heavyweights right now that aren't really tweaking the mustard.
They're just not. I mean, they've lost Deontay Wilder, haven't they? And that was their man.
Bakole, you battered him, didn't he?
And Bakole's not good. Bakole's not good. If Bakole's battering
Right, so when you join the FTTV boxing scrutiny team, you're going to that press conference. I can go, guess what Scott said?
Do you know what the thing is?
Martin, come have a chat with
You
him.
know what? He can punch a bit, but when you've lost in your career to Michael Hunter, right, and Michael Hunter's not the best boxer on the planet, and then all of yours.
I've got to be careful. He's part TCL. Or he was last season.
All your success in boxing.
Yeah, Mark Hunter, brilliant boxer.
Cheers, Mike.
All of his success in boxing has come from all of these sparring stories that nobody can actually tell you actually happened or not. I've stopped Alexander Usyk in sparring.
Yeah, because
I've stopped Joshua in sparring.
A lot of these sparring sessions are behind closed doors. Not filmed.
Anything could have happened. In that he could have got stopped himself. Nobody's gonna tell you that. Some people have told me that the Daniel Dubois one was fair enough. I can kind of see that. Daniel Dubois, especially a young Daniel Dubois, very very defensively naive. Probably could have got caught by someone like Bakole, especially if it was when he was sort of coming through the ranks, when he was fighting the likes of Nathan Gorman. At that point in time. But yeah, for me, Bakole. When you're looking at the guys in the top sort of 5 at the minute, heavyweight wise, I just don't think Bakole comes anywhere near any of them guys. I think as soon as he steps in with Zhile Zhang, probably even a Hergovich, Daniel Dubois, any of them lot, I think he's going to get found out. I think everyone's jumping on the hype train a little bit because he beat Jared Anderson, but the same thing again with Jared Anderson.
And he shouldn't have beat him. I don't think he should have beat him.
The thing with Jared Anderson is, in the heavyweight division, he's going to suffer the same fate against anybody who can punch because he hasn't got the punch power to gain anybody's respect. And that's where he's going to struggle, Jared Anderson. And for me, if I'm Jared Anderson, I'd probably drop down and fight a Coley at Bridgerweight. I think that's the only way he gets sort of anywhere near. I think heavyweight's just too big for him right now. Maybe if he move to a trainer, maybe like a Freddie Roach or someone that could change his style a little bit, make him a little bit more aggressive, maybe put a little bit more snap in his punches, maybe Anderson could get there. But right now, I think he should sack off the heavyweight division, drop a little bit of weight, move down to Bridgerweight, maybe do what Okole's doing at the minute and fight these guys who, are tomato cans, but build up, that confidence and build up that, the experience that you sort of need fighting for world championships and all that kind of stuff. But until then, I don't think he's going to get there, unfortunately.
Definitely. So we're coming to the end of the hour, guys, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, Scott. So I've got one more thing that I want to talk to you about with the heavyweight boxing scene and with, in fact, the heavier weight divisions. Do you want to see a Bridgerweight brought in across all of the 4-belt era, possibly 5, depends how you want to see it, or do you think that just leaving it up to the WBC is okay, or would you prefer to see all the sanctioning?
I think you either go all in or you don't bother. I think it's all in or none at all because at the minute it's a plastic division from most people's eyes. Lawrence Okoli is a world champion in that division, but no one really gives him the respect for it because the talent pool in that division is very very poor. I don't think that people are going to take it seriously because you go from cruiserweight. Where's the money at? The money's at heavyweight. I think you're going to leapfrog that division if you're really serious as a cruiserweight about wanting to make money. Yeah, it's all right having a bit of a stopgap in there. But again, when you've got the likes of Deontay Wilder, who's fought at heavyweight and knocked out 40-odd opponents, who could have fought at Bridgerweight for the majority of his career, if not all of his career, I think it's more like you're better off just leaving cruiserweight, heavyweight. There's no need for that middle division for me.
There we go. There we go. And from the horse's mouth,
Yeah.
I have to agree with that. I think, if something ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't fix
Right.
it. Anyway,
That's good
guys,
saying as
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Scotty, for
Yeah,
Baker
thanks for
Boxing.
having on, Scott.
Don't forget, give him a like and a follow and everything on TikTok. I'm sure he'll really appreciate it. And we're going to recruit him into the team. We're going to bribe him to join us here and he can come with us. And then I'll put him up in front of Martin Bacoli to tell him he's a good.
See what happens there, yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks very much. And we will see you again
Thank
soon
you.
on the next episode of Boxing Bantz. It's been a pleasure.
Peace out.